Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm your host, Liz Hyman, bringing the rescue boat to your sales challenges. In this ever-changing sales environment, it's easy for leaders to feel adrift. We're here to be the beacon guiding you to success. Each episode, I'm joined by top sales experts and practitioners who have navigated this waters and come out victorious. Together, we'll uncover the insights and strategies that will help you hit your sales targets and grow your business. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. And I'm here today with your Sales SOS crew, Bryn Tillman, Daryl Prell, Mike Simmons, John Way, and Renee Bigelow. And they are here to answer your toughest sales questions. We are going to be talking now. We've been talking about target market for the last couple of podcasts. And now we want to talk about it. Once we've identified our target market, we've identified our ideal customer, and we're supposed to now start selling and marketing to it. One of the big questions that I hear all the time is, one, how do I create the list of who I want to target and market to? How do I find that list? How do I create that list? And then the second thing is, how do I reach them? How do I do this? Do I do, a massive cold calling campaign? Is that the only way we can do this? Or are there other ways? Is it all just cold emailing? Like, what are some things we should be thinking about? So that's our topic for the next 30 minutes. And I'm going to open up the floor with, let's start with, if I know who my target market is, I know who my ideal customers, how do I create a list? Oh, wait, go ahead, Daryl. Next, Bryn.
No, it's okay. Bryn and I are always fighting over who can answer the easy questions. Basically, it's the gist. I look at my ideal customer profile. That's going to be things like demographics, firmographics, etc., and high-level attributes that you can filter upon. And then it's the idea that I need to know who are the individual buyers or the personas within the buying committee, so I can then drill down and focus them specifically. So now I'm getting more into job titles, etc. So you got to have access. You got to have, shall we say, corporate alignment on all of those attributes. What is my ideal customer profile? Who's involved in the buying committee? What do those personas look like for each of those buying committee members? What are their attributes that I can filter upon, as we talked about in our previous episode? So I can go into LinkedIn, or I can go into Hoovers or ZoomInfo or something and start building the lists. All right. That's the starting point. Many companies do not have that alignment, or if they do, they'll say they do, but when you drill down, and it's worth drilling down, folks, you'll soon figure out that sales and marketing are actually doing completely different profiles of who their buyer is. And what happens then is you have a huge drop off on leads coming in sourced by marketing, and they don't convert by sales because there's a disconnect and because you attracted the wrong buyer. So you need to make sure you've got that alignment happening and taking place. The other thing you need to do, this is going to sound crazy, I don't think we've talked about it yet, but you need to have clean data. If you don't have clean data, you won't be able to do any filtering. You're just going to get garbage. So that's the starting point of building your list. And then it just gets very much pragmatic, right? So great. Now, who are the accounts that we all want to focus on if we're doing an ABM type approach, et cetera, making sure there's alignment and allocation between marketing and sales, individual sales reps or sales teams, et cetera. But that's the starting point. Bryn, what did I miss?
I'm going to yes and that. And because we're talking about filters, and absolutely, if you're using Sales Navigator, you have some very powerful filters that you can leverage in order to get as close to, and I'm sorry, I forget who said I don't like ideal list, but as close to it as we possibly can on the whole buying committee of all the organizations that meet all of the criteria. But the one thing that Sales Navigator or LinkedIn generally can give you that you can't get anywhere else in the world is your social proximity. Who in those accounts do you already know, or do you know someone that knows? And so if we're going in account-centric sales or account-based marketing, when we build out this list, and often what I do for a client is I'll build out with them the exact grouping of companies and or leads that they're looking for, I grab the URL, the link, and you send that to everyone in the company. Now, if they don't all have Sales Navigator, do as best searches you can do in regular LinkedIn. Grab that link. When they stick that link in their LinkedIn and you have it marked as first and seconds, they will see their first and seconds. But now I send it to Liz, she'll see her first and seconds. Send it to Daryl, he sees his, and Renee sees hers, and John sees his, and Mike sees his. So it's not a static list that I'm sending. It's a search criteria. And so now when we're doing these searches, who can get us in highest and hottest? And that's the way that I approach using like LinkedIn Sales Navigator to build out really powerful lists, not just the perfect whales that we want to go with, but the pathways in.
This is one of those areas where it's critical to get that word that we talked about a couple of times so far today, that alignment on what's most important to us. Like, what are these criteria that people are or are not, or fall within, as an example, because you can set up these statements, these searches, these filters inside Sales Navigator or other tools to exclude people who don't fit in that ideal customer profile or ideal client profile or ideal person that you want to talk with. And then you get this information, and not only do you know who do you know that already meets that criteria, but who do you know that knows someone who meets that criteria? And it can be super, super powerful. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make in this is they try to make those lists too broad. Because there's that whole fear of missing out piece. Like, what happens if I don't make it broad enough? I don't include them, and then I miss out on that opportunity. I'd ask this question: what happens if you get everyone that's in that target list? How does that change your business?
Go ahead, Renee.
Liz, I'm going to offer a little. I sit in the seat of marketing, so I have a little bit different perspective. But I've done this both ways. Where I am in charge of a sales play, and we're going to think through everything and define out and build materials and build the list and give it to sales teams. And I've done it the other way, where we build enough materials and content that we create demand and people come in, right? Either way, what you need to do before you build that list is define a lot of things, and you need materials, because once you have that list, you're going to have to send it out, and it will help inform a better list and a better sales play either way. Is that me freezing? I'm sorry.
I think we all are.
Okay.
There's a little better, as Daryl put it.
Okay. Well, so really defining what that campaign or sales play is going to be will help so much with that list building, and having your materials that you're going to need, getting them out there ahead of time. This doesn't need to be an either or, and a lot of companies approach it as either an outbound motion or an inbound motion, and they really should work together. If you have all those materials, if you have a really good definition, you have the materials that you're going to need for the content that those people need to consume to know that they have the problem, to know that your solution is the right solution for the problem, and how they will go about doing it, then you can build a list of people who come to you while your people are building a list of who they want to call on.
So we want to get the right information to the right people, instead of just, I have a list, let's send them anything, or I created this, let's send it to everyone. We really want to think about the right messaging to the right people in the right way.
And if you think that out ahead of time and you publish those materials, you're now not only enabling your sales team to get that information out there, but you're making it possible for people to come to you because they self-recognize. And then you can think about getting in other distribution channels where more people can find you.
John, did you want to jump into that?
No, I think Renee said it the best. I thought that was brilliant. So yeah, that was great.
Okay, any last thoughts on building that list before we jump into different ways to reach out to that list? I want to go back while you're thinking about the answer to that to what Daryl said about clean data. So we used to say many, many years ago that in a year, a third of your data was already out of date if you had a list. I don't know if that's still true or if it's way worse. I mean, I know it's at least still a third of your data is wrong. I don't know if it's worse than that now. So when we talk about having a list, it is never a static list, right? So the great thing about using a tool like Zoom Info or Navigator is that that information is constantly being updated. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is when we're talking about a clean list, clean data inside our own system, we want to make sure that, again, we have the titles like Renee was talking about, that we have the right people in the right positions. Before you start mailing, somehow you need to compare that list to some tool that is current instead of just using what's in your CRM and maybe hasn't been touched in a long time. So I just wanted to go back to that concept of clean. Daryl, was there anything else that people needed to think about in that idea of clean data?
Yeah, you need to set expectations with management, especially finance, because you're going to spend money on some of these tools, whether it be Navigator, Zoom Info, or whatever. Liz is 100% correct that a large percentage of your data will age out, will become obsolete and irrelevant every single year. So that means you need to make an investment to maintain your existing data clean tools, lots are out there. But often, the classic solution is just to offshore that and have that cleaned manually. That's number one. But number two, talking about the investment required, that means if you're going to use a tool like a Zoom Info as an example, there's a cost to that. And management, for some stupid reason, thinks that if I spend all these tens of thousands of dollars in this tool, that the data is going to be 100% clean. It's not. So expectations management means you need to go tell them, listen, we're going to spend all this money on Zoom Info. And yeah, I know it's exorbitant. And chances are, if it's like best in class, 2/3 of it will be accurate and a third of it will be wrong. Just so you know, right? And they don't like to hear that. Why are we spending this money on this tool? Because without it, I've got nothing, right? So you got to do expectations management and you have to do cleaning. Then there's some internal processes that need to go on. And I love that Renee talked about different motions. We could have a whole episode on motions, inbound, outbound, PLG, partners, whatever it might be. But the idea that both sales and marketing need to have processes defined to clean data. So if marketing's doing email blasts, for example, and we get bounce backs, those bounce backs aren't something to be ignored. Those bounce backs are your lists that you need to then go and clean. Again, ship it off to the person that's offshore. Sales, if you're calling in for Jane Doe and Jane Doe's no longer there anymore, don't just say, oh, I'm sorry. You need to say, who replaced Jane Doe? And then you need to go update the CRM. All right. So those processes aren't in place. You're going to bite, you're going to get bit. You're not going to have success. And you're going to wonder why. You're pointing the fingers different ways. So manage your expectations, have realistic expectations on the quality of data, understand that it's a never ending investment, put processes in place to constantly clean it for anybody that's affected by that. And by the way, I didn't mention it, but customer success and support, same way. All right. So they're going to find bad and dirty data. They need to clean it too. So data is the lifeline of the company. It's what you rely on over and over and over again. That is not optional. So there you go. Go have those hard conversations with finance. Make sure it's a line item in your budget. It's got to happen.
Go ahead, Bryn.
So I love what Daryl's saying. I am going to yes and it again and throw a little LinkedIn into the mix and say, before you reach out to anyone from that list, quickly look them up on LinkedIn and see if they're still there. Number one. Number two. Easy. Right? Number two, if they're not, grab their old title, look up that title in the company page and see who replaced them. And so then when you call, you have the new name. Crazy stuff.
Crazy.
Right? Now, what's amazing in so many different ways is Sales Navigator will connect with Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, and HubSpot fully if you have a team of 10 or more. So you can now leverage real-time, and LinkedIn is as real-time information as you're ever going to get. Someone gets a new job, they update it. way before Zoom Info knows, right? So that's going to be pretty up to date. That can help clean your data, right? That having that connection, they can say, yes, this is the new person. And with a click, all the right information is now populated. So had to throw in a little LinkedIn, just my thing.
Liz,
So we have about 10 minutes now. Let's talk about, yeah, go ahead, Renee.
I was just going to add, I haven't heard any of us mention this one thing, and this is another one marketing can help with. You also can build based on behavior, your lists, right? So let's say, particularly, you mentioned product-led growth, right? If you have a product-led growth motion, people who do certain things, right? A certain level of adoption, using certain feature sets, using certain things, those are great lists to build based on behavior. That gets you into some of these larger accounts. You can do the same thing with other types of lead scoring within your own database, right? When you have that first party data of behavior, that's a great way to think about a list building criteria.
So I often think about somebody who's had a new sales leader for a very short period of time, or a company who doesn't have a CRO or a VP of sales, right? So sometimes when you're looking at it and you're doing the criteria, it's what they haven't done yet or about to do or are doing. So
yes, absence of behavior can be a great reason for a list too.
Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about, okay, have a list. Now what? What do? I have a list now.
I'll add, you're going to need to have some, if this is brand new, if this is something you haven't sold on before, in sales management, marketing management can help with this if you need, but having some templated things that help whoever is about to go out with that list to like guides along the way to help them know some of the messaging for what that list, why that list was built, right? If it was behavior based, what is the messaging that goes on it? If it was target based, if whatever those things are, having some of those. I'm not a huge fan of scripted. I think it comes off as scripted, but templates that help people with those guideposts along the way.
You can design for success, right? Like, you design backward, execute forward, know where you want to go, begin with the end in mind, leverage your Covey design thinking principles. However you want to look at this, say, all right, here's where I want to be. I want to generate revenue. Well, what has to happen before that? What happens before that? What happens before that? And what happens before that? And then start to think about the different types of communication you want to put out there and tests that you want to put out there that have a very simple call to action for people, so that you can measure whether or not that call to action actually takes place. The call to action could be book a meeting. It could be click on a link. It could be join a webinar. It could be whatever, but what it should not be is, hey, if you'd like to know more, click on this link, book a meeting, go to a webinar, and send us the first name of your oldest child. Like, we've got to be careful about what we're asking people to do, because if we start to ask too much, we insert too many variables, it gets really hard for us to figure out what is working or not working relative to the list.
So we want to take them on a journey and not throw the spaghetti against the wall. Go ahead, Brent.
Take them on a journey.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I'd want to do with the list is now determine what challenge are they facing before they know they need me. And I want to create thought leadership and content and insights that's handling or addressing the challenge before they're shopping my solution, so that I'm the one that's influencing them when they realize that this is the next step in solving this challenge. So taking that list and making sure that it's all the right people and all the right companies is great. But now I've got to qualify them in. And I'm going to qualify them in based on where they are today. At least that's my perspective on this. And so if that is information or content or a webinar, as Mike is talking about, that interests them, I'm getting them at the right time. Sometimes, as sales and marketers, we're getting to them a little too late, where our competitors have already influenced them in their buying decision. And we want to make sure that if we're going to invest our time with these prospects, that they are positioned to be the shortest of sales cycles that possibly can happen inside of my organization. And so when you can get them opting in at the right time, you have the shortest sales cycle possible in my experience. I just wanted to say I'm Bryn and I'm done. It was almost a Clubhouse moment for me.
What's Clubhouse? So
You're not in a clubhouse? That's not where you
So-
are right now?
no,
It looks like a clubhouse to me.
It does look like a
it does.
clubhouse.
I agree. So Liz, you asked such a loaded question. I got the list. Now what? That's we could spend hours talking about this, but let me be a little, a very high level. To me, there's kind of sales and marketing both help. Marketing's going to be more shotgun. Sales is more of a rifle. That's the first part. The assumption is we have our list
We have to have war analogies here, Daryl.
Yeah, we have to. We have to.
Liz was
I
attacking
didn't bring
people
up the sports
earlier.
analogy yet. So the assumption if we have our list is that we already have our defined target audience and buyers and ICPs and all that kind of stuff. If you're marketing, then what's your go-to-market strategy? What are the motions you want to use, right? That's a very, if it's inbound, for example, then I want to identify the specific personas I want to go after. I want to make those target lists. I want to go after them. If it's an ABM model, probably in pay-per-click. I want to do some email campaigns. I want to do some social outreach, that kind of stuff. So classic outreach stuff I should be doing, just marketing 101. But if you're sales, I think, the next step, if you haven't already done it, is, okay, who are the people in the buying committee from my list? And do I have playbooks built for all of them? I want to do 21 touches in 30 days. What are the touches? Phone, email, social media, LinkedIn especially, right? It could be direct mail. It could be a variety of tangible touches and frequency to make sure that we have that consistent touches, because often, what's the last stat? It takes 10, 12, 13 touches before they respond to you. I've lost track anymore.
I don't know what it is now.
Right. But to Renee's point, you need the right messaging. And then the other thing you have to do is sales and marketing need to get in alignment. And what are the lead magnets that these people have interest in? Because I'll use those lead magnets in the playbooks. I'll similarly use them in my pay-per-click ads or my email blasts or what have you. So it's really about what's our go-to-market strategy. And GTM, that's another 2 or 3 or 4 episodes on its own we can talk about. So, it's a big ass picture, but you need the list. The list is the fuel. There we go. Is that a sports analogy? I don't know. It's a car analogy. It's the fuel, whereas sales and marketing are the engine that rely upon the fuel, but they still have to run the plays that they respectively own.
But
and it has to be intentional and aligned.
You take us back, though, really quickly to what we've been talking about in the last couple of episodes is you've just defined something very expensive with all these different pieces. And the more targeted your list is, the better use of resources you have, right? You can't do that. You can't boil the ocean with all of the things that you just talked about.
Nailed it.
Liz, can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
You have a list. What now? This is another place where I see a lot of marketing teams drop off, and sometimes it's for budget. But when you go to the trouble of designing a campaign, building a playbook, having the templates, building a list, having messaging for all of them, one of the things that really helps tip this over is providing something I call air cover. And if your sales team is going to be calling on people, and your marketing team is running campaigns that has the same messaging to that target audience, so you can take that same target audience and build ad targets, right? You could take the same accounts that you're trying to reach. You could upload your specific list if it's large enough, and you can run ads that support the same messaging that your sales team is sending out as air cover, so that they get that additional touch. You on the marketing side, you have a messaging rule that my personal cheat sheet to it is 8 to 10 times over 3 to 5 formats. Now your sales plays will add to that too, and marketing can help reach those numbers. And it's sort of it's going to build on something called repetition priming, so that your sales team has a better shot of success. And that repetition priming is just psychology. The more you see something, the more you recognize it, the more you're willing to take action on it, essentially. And that repetition priming, that air cover of ad campaigns or other marketing campaigns on top of the sales efforts to the same people, has tremendous value.
Thanks, Renee. Okay, so we're at the end of this episode. Any last thoughts before we wrap it up? No, we touched it all. Yes, Mike.
I think one of the other ones is, so you've got a list, and then you engage with the list. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, around kind of like who are some of the people that they know who fit this profile when you engage in the conversation. Another question you might want to ask when you engage with the list, or you start doing research on the list, start to either ask them directly, where did they go when they're looking for information? What events do they participate in? Or look at, when you do the research on the list, what events are they promoting on their LinkedIn page? Where are they saying that they're going to? I know the first time I got to meet Daryl in person was at B2BMX when he was out here in Scottsdale one year. And that, although I'm not the ideal customer for a B2BMX event, I absolutely want to go hang out in the lobby of that hotel when that event's happening, because my ideal customers are congregating there. And it's not worth it for me to invest in that kind of an event to have a booth or to have a badge or work around, but there's an opportunity to hang out where people congregate, where people eat, drink, sleep. This is where you can create a very interesting and targeted approach to hunting. And I am not going to pull out rifles or shotguns or any of those other things, but we can go in there and we can start to figure out, okay, where are all these people going and how do we build from there? Yes, I did just want you to buy me drinks, Daryl. So thank you. Yes, I just shared some of the, so there's a chat going on in the background, and every once in a while, Daryl will drop things in there periodically, and I just outed him. So there you go. You're welcome, Daryl.
So to wrap it up, I think, getting the list, coming up with a plan, that's the key. Get the list, get the right list, get a clean list, and then make a plan and execute it. But I think one of the things that Mike is leaving us with is, let's get creative. Just to put in context, you're marketing me. I got 4,000 emails last month. I only know that because I fired my admin and she didn't clean it up before she got fired. So 4,000 emails. What is the chance that I saw yours? And these are from my friends. These are, they're my newsletters that I like to read. How can 4,000? So if you don't get creative about where else your customer is, I also get, by the way, at least 10 or 20 requests to connect from people who directly want to sell to me in my LinkedIn. So if you think that you're being unique by doing that, remember who I am as your buyer, and I am bombarded. So how are you going to get creative to reach your target market where they are doing what they like to do in a way they're going to respond to? And that's not an easy answer.
That's the dark social that Daryl talked about.
Dark social, yeah.
I was actually going to
also
say,
multi-touch.
I think it's more than being creative, Liz. And creative can take a lot of ways. Like, you can stand out with a lot of creativity, get your message through with creativity. But what I think you're all saying is being human, right?
Yeah. Like
showing human interest in other humans' problems. And how do you do that? Maybe it's show up in person. Maybe it's dark social. Maybe it's the right way, the human connectivity in the messaging, right? Like, I think that's where sales gets to take that one-to-one messaging so much further than marketing gets to with the one-to-many.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, well, let's wrap this one up. The next time we get together, our next 4 episodes are going to be focused on building your sales team from the ground up, which is one of my favorite topics. So your crew and I will be here, same place, same time.
Well, not same place for me.
Not the same place. Renee, for those of you who are not watching, Renee is sitting in her car. And Daryl, if you haven't seen it, is sitting in his camper out in this beautiful setting, and the rest of us are stuck inside. All right, everybody, have a great day and happy selling, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
And that's a wrap of this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope today's episode has equipped you to navigate the sales seas with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on YouTube or LinkedIn. Until next time, keep sailing towards those sales goals. I'm Liz Hyman, your captain here at the Sales SOS podcast, saying smooth sailing and successful selling.